Hey, it's all with another video covering the upcoming patch 10.1 with an eye on professions. What is new, who are the winners and losers, and is there a knowledge point catch-up? I'm going to share what we know so far, and all you have to do is like this video, maybe subscribe for more coverage, and then sit back and relax. First, some general information. Crafted items in Season 2 are going to be no more difficult to make than Season 1 items, meaning if you can craft item level 418 gear now, you can immediately craft item level 447 gear with the right recipe and the materials. There's no additional skill needed. I gotta emphasize, this is super important to understand. I'm gonna say it again. As long as you meet minimum requirements to make max ranked gear in Season 1, you're good for Season 2. There's also no new specializations or nodes to dump points into, so everyone's on the same playing field. Take this guide into consideration if you're looking to specialize in a certain something. Even players joining in now can get a slice of the pie as long as they're aiming in the right direction. Many recipes are locked behind vendors at the quest hub in Zaralek Cavern. I won't get too deep into the details here, but in order to get these, your crafters will need to spend a bit of time running zone content for specific currencies that you trade, for these and also some bonus knowledge points. Right now, there's no significant account-wide friendliness attached to these vendors. There are also a few recipes that are raid drops, which can be traded and sold on the auction house. Considering that all epic crafts from Season 1 can be upgraded to Season 2 item levels, 10.0 recipes will be included on boss loot tables in 10.1. As far as it looks, there isn't going to be like a free 50-point knowledge boost for freshly leveled alts or a specialization reset. But between this and the nature of crafting orders, it ensures that everyone will have opportunities to get these items and gear. But for the sake of big gold, there's going to be competition between crafters to get these essential recipes first. Raiders are going to get first crack at the epic recipes, while PvPers will be the ones amassing recipes to make Season 2 PvP gear. There are a few crafting materials to talk about. Zaralek glow spores are gathered by herbalists by finding lambent herb nodes, and miners can find metamorphic mining nodes. From testing these special herb and ore nodes are pretty rare, but I'm sure that this is going to change when the patch goes live. Picking or mining these nodes will give a few glow spores and a short buff that, for single gatherers, doesn't really do anything. But for dual gatherers, if you can gather from both types of nodes, herbs and ore, within a certain time period, you can earn some bonus glow spores. The more important thing to do is to overload these nodes. Overloading the ore node will spawn an NPC who will run around and drop a bunch of these glow spores. I managed to get almost 200 of them, and they're used in a variety of recipes. Overloading a mining node will spawn a few more rocks that you can loot, and it doesn't give quite as much as the herb node, so it's a little bit hard to tell what the target amount is supposed to be. Skinners unfortunately don't seem to be getting anything that I could easily find. I was hoping to find something related to maybe bait crafting, but so far no luck. There's another material called Dracothist that I've so far been unable to find while gathering, but it can be created through other means, and I'll talk more on that a little bit later. Most of the new recipes use a number of glow spores and Dracothist, meaning big gold opportunities that you ought to take advantage of early before supply evens out and prices drop. Let's go over the professions in a loose order of which will have the biggest impact in this patch, but I don't necessarily mean that these are going to be the most profitable. For all I know, gem cuts and the elemental area will continue to dominate. Maybe skinning is winning, but here goes. Remember primal infusions and concentrated primal infusions? They're pretty much coming back, but instead of getting the materials and then just right-clicking to make an infusion, you're going to have to find an enchanter to do this for you, and they're going to do their best to bleed you dry. The recipes for these will be easy to find through zone content, but they're pretty hungry for enchanting materials. I suspect that these sorts of requirements are around to chip away at the supply that's been amassing over the past few months. These enchanted crafts are going to be in regular demand, and for crafters, they're going to be influenced by the resourcefulness stat, giving crafters an opportunity to get some of those materials back. Enchanters can count on sitting around and barking on trade chat and then see their personal queue fill up with requests, then they just gotta strap on their resourcefulness gear and have at it. Enchanters will also be able to make a new epic wand that, oddly, is not considered embellished. I'm sure that's going to change, but at least at the moment it provides a neat set of effects, depending on if you're a healer or a DPS. Blacksmithing is going to get a bit of a bump with a new shadowed alloy recipe. It's actually a fairly cheap alloy to make, and it's going to be used to make an item that everyone is going to take for granted, a belt buckle that increases stamina. Notice that the recipe itself, which needs to be purchased with a zone currency, does not need any new materials, so smiths focused on alloys and accessories can quickly start pumping these out. but this will also really start to drain the supply of Awakened Earth. Smiths will also be able to make a special shield and a two-handed strength weapon, both of which have some pretty cool special effects. In 10.1, alchemists get a much needed quality of life boon by being able to throw down a cauldron that lets them craft toxic recipes. There's a fun item called a Stinky Bright Potion, which I haven't seen just yet, but I bet it does exactly what it says it does. An interesting addition is being able to transmute Dracothist by taking a bunch of glow spores. Odds are pretty good that this recipe won't be viable right away. There are indications that Dracothist fragments can be found and then turned into a complete item. But once the price of glow spores is low enough, transmute spec alchemists will be turning their attention towards this when using their charges each week. I should also point out that the elemental potions of ultimate power are still going to be the go-to for cooldown pots, but will no longer be soulbound or use primal chaos, since that's not going to be a thing going forward. Alchemists are going to win, but the increased traffic for potions is also going to make them feel really competitive for the business. In this case, you're playing the long game. You're buying low and you're selling high, and if you're doing that, then you're good. Jewelcrafting is encountering a bit more competition for the coveted embellished spots, but the Lariat will still likely be a top contender for which piece of gear is going to get the first Season 2 sparks. Still, Jewelcrafting will be fine between that and the regular replacement of gems. Because of this, the recipes added in 10.1 are pretty light, including optional reagents focused on PvP. Crowd control equals more throughput, or you can get a bonus if you trick the enemy into a spell interrupt when you're not casting, so there's nothing crazy impressive this time around, but JC is still in a very healthy spot. Leatherworking also gets a few useful items that are not linked to the raid. The Spore Colony shoulder guards are leather and give a direct damage proc for those interested in that toxic route. The Dracothist arm guards are mail and provide some strong secondary stats, but I'd like to think that the engineering bracers are a little bit better. I mean, they pack some strong passive secondaries and can be slotted with additional abilities. Lampent armor is the hybrid character's leg enchant. It's not as potent as their dedicated counterparts, but with this, you don't have to re-enchant or have a second pair of pants. The possible winner, though, is the Shadow Flame Tempered Armor Patch. It's an embellishment that provides a damage proc. Overall, it provides a DPS increase, which might vary depending on your class, your spec, or your role. Tailors only bring a handful of fun little items, but also they bring the Undulating Spore Cloak, and it provides a very modest heal when taking low damage, and then it applies a damage bubble when dropped down to lower health. So while this cloak is pretty cool, there's going to be competition for which embellished gear you want to wear. Engineers aren't getting a new Jeeves or Blingtron, which makes them literal garbage for this patch, but no, not really. They can make a new bomb that at first glance seems to interact with the polarity amplifier, which sounds kind of horrifying actually. They can make a fun little toy as well as a new tinker that deals Shadow Flame damage. Inscription is another kind of mixed bag. There's the usual Vantis rune and contract for the new Renown faction. There are 2 glyph recipes for demon hunters and warriors to learn, but at the moment there's virtually no crafting requirements. There's also a new hissing rune that adds mastery for those who need it, and appearances for the new Slither Drake riding mount. Rounding at the bottom, skinning and fishing don't seem to have anything new added, and cooking added 1 recipe that doesn't seem to do anything. And that is it. That is what we know about professions so far. Let me know what you think in the comment below. Please like the video, subscribe for more content, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.